We should be live now. How about now?
It's live, you can go ahead.
Yeah, we are live.
Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 2021 GSA Election Forum hosted by the International Student Association. Before we begin, the ISA would like to acknowledge that our university is on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional meeting grounds, gathering place, and traveling route to the Cree, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, Diné, and Nakota Sioux. We acknowledge all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries. The ISA hosted GSA Election Forum is an ISA event. This event is not a GSA event and is separate from the GSA General Election Forum taking place on February 22nd. The GSA staff and members of the GSA Elections and Referenda Committee may be in attendance at this event solely as observers, as well as ISA members. The ISA would like to specify that all candidates contesting for the GSA directly elected officers positions has been equally invited to this forum, and the candidates present here today are those who have accepted our invitation. I will be the moderator of this forum. I am Vanessa Ilongo, the ISA's Vice President of Graduate Affairs. I will now review the conduct of this program. The forum will not exceed 2 hours. All questions will be asked by the moderator, so me. No candidate or volunteers representing their campaign nor observers shall interfere, attempt to stop, limit, or otherwise dissuade the moderator from asking a question. Out of respect for the other candidates, I ask that your videos and microphones are turned off until called upon by the moderator. Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for the opening statement at the beginning of their turn. Candidates will be referred to by their first names. Questions for this forum have been collected from University of Alberta graduate students. Each candidate will be allotted 4 minutes to respond to each question, and if several candidates are contesting for the same position, they will be asked to give their opening statements and answer each question alternately. The speaking order will be introduced as follows. First, President, 2, Vice President Academic, 3rd, Vice President External, 4th, Vice President Labor, and 5th and last, Vice President Student Services. We regret to inform you that none of the candidates contesting for the GSA Vice President Academic position are present here today. And we're gonna start with candidates contesting for the Vice President External position. We have 2 candidates contesting for this position, Shivam and Maud. I will now ask Shivan to begin with his opening statement for the position of GSA Vice President External. Shivam, you have 2 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you, Longo, for letting me speak right now. So, I'm Shivam and I've started my journey at University of Alberta this winter. I'm Masters of Engineering student at Mechanical Engineering Department. So apart from this, the motivation for me to join the GSA as a VP external position, because as we know that the GSA is the biggest platform as well as the oldest platform for the Students Association of Graduate Students. And this platform will give me a better way to provide and portray my knowledge, time, dedication, skills for the betterment of student life. And as I know the roles and responsibilities for this position, like taking the initiative, strengthening communications with external bodies, building strategic partnerships, expanding relationships with policymakers, getting connected with industries and their leaders of the VP. So this all positions and responsibilities attracted me a lot, and I think I have the qualities to that can fill up this position and help a graduate student to make the life more smoother at the UFA. Apart from that, I know that we have a very hard time right now that as a COVID and because of that, graduate students have suffered a lot, and there are a lot of issues that has to be taken up with the as a position of VP external and has to be portrayed to the different federal relationships of federal people. to sort this out, like quarantine, like students are suffering with the quarantine issues right now, that they have to do 3 days of quarantine, and then after that there will be 14 days of quarantine. And apart from that, we are thinking of the international students also at one side, so they have to pay a huge lot of money. Apart from that, there are issues like U passes and transit passes, like bus services has been abruptly stopped, so that has to be resumed. Apart from that, as a VP external, I can get connected to the industry leaders and get in contact with, like, students have been suffering from the uh, issues of job scenarios right now, and less of professional development programs. So that will be also a platform for me to make the graduate student life smoother at the professional development side. So yeah, that's all from my side.
Thank you, Shivam. Now I will ask Mo to begin his opening statement for the position of GSA Vice President External. Mo, you have 2 minutes from now.
First, I would like to thank the International Students Association for inviting me into this forum and giving me the platform to talk about my interests and plans regarding the coming GS election. I'm Mo Tahsin bin Mustafa, an international graduate student from Bangladesh, and I'm running for Vice President External in this year's GSA election. I'm a Master of Engineering student in the ECE department, and my specialization is energy systems. This is my second year as a graduate student, and it has been a great learning experience so far. I have got the opportunity to meet students from many countries and learn about their cultures and way of life. I'm willing to work together with the university, government, fellow graduate students, and other associations in the university for the combined good of all of us at the U of A community. I believe keeping an open mind and sharing ideas with each other is vital in that regard. Win or lose, I look forward to this election as a learning experience and to test my leadership and organization skills, while at the same time meeting an amazing bunch of people on the way.
Thank you, Maud. So now we're gonna move to questions. Our first question is, what motivated you to run for the GSA VP external position? Why would you like to be involved in graduate students' governance? I will now ask Shivam to answer this question. Shivam, you have 4 minutes from now.
uh, yeah, am I audible? No.
Yes, Shivam, we can hear
Okay, fine. Yeah, yeah. So, as I previously mentioned, that GSA is the one of the oldest platform, and uh, that gives a better, it's a bigger, oldest platform, and the qualities required for being a GSA VP external, I find likely in me. So, apart from that, the roles and responsibilities which are there for a VP external are more likely that attracted me, the strengthening the communication with the federal government, because as we know, right now students are suffering a lot due to COVID, and due to the COVID, and apart from that, there are a lot of professional development program issues that have been there. So students likely can get more into the professional development programs when we build a conversation with the federal people or external bodies or industrialists. We also can get into the media relations, that will cover more of the student life, what the students are going through, and that can get covered with the help of media, and get portrayed to the people that these are all the problems that have been facing. So as a VP external, that will be my responsibility to make the life more smoother for the students. Apart from that, external post-secondary funding, that is also required, because due to the COVID, students have suffered a lot due to this position, this situation of fundings, even the institute. So the graduate students external post-secondary funding can also one of my agendas, and that also attracted me, that I can contact with the external bodies and external industrialists or funding bodies like that can help with that. And lack of the professional experience that student lacked in this 1 year. So, and for the coming year, I'll be focusing more on that students get a smoother life and a greater professional experience. So yeah, that's all. Some of these things, like, which are mostly affected due to COVID, are one of the focus for me.
Thank you, Shivam. I will now ask Mo to answer the same question. Mo, you have 4 minutes from now.
Thank you. The VP's job is to represent the graduate students to the communities beyond campus and to advocate for the department of the graduate community at all levels of government. Being a VPE would mean attending the GSA board meetings and council meetings and actively engaging in policy making for the grad students. Moreover, I would also get the opportunity to be included in different committees such as the GSA Award Selection Committee, the Alumni Council, the Residence Advisory Committee, the Alberta Graduate Provincial Advocacy Council, and the Edmonton Student Alliance. Active participation within these communities would surely enhance my leadership qualities and help me learn more about the graduate communities and the challenges we are facing. During my undergrad studies, I was always engaged with extracurricular activities, may it be organizing a conference for the Model United Nations Club or participating in sports for my athletic club. I always found myself happy when I was engaging with others into doing something productive. I believe that by getting involved in governance, I can enrich the grad school experience and connect with other students and meet new people from every corner of the world. GSA organizes social events all around the year. As a matter of fact, they organize 50 different departmental orientations throughout the year. I would love to get the opportunity to be a part of this organizing committee and to inform new grad students about important service providers. They also organize general elections every year, which I find a fun way to learn about new people and the ideas that they bring forward. It would give me a platform for engaging with the university and a voice to share my advocacy to the central authorities. Moreover, GSA hosts the award ceremony and many volunteering opportunities. I look forward to participating in those to strengthen my CV. GSA also hosts monthly coffee break, which is a great opportunity to socialize with fellow graduate students and build my networking. It would be a platform where I can strengthen my public speaking, broaden my spectrum of ideas, develop relationships, and contribute to the welfare of my fellow students. If elected, I would be attending meetings regularly and contributing in the monthly and yearly reports, which will undoubtedly strengthen my managerial skills. I would be working out strategies, generating new ideas, and most importantly, by doing all of this, I would be actually doing something that I love. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud. Our second question is, as GSA VP External, you will be in charge of university engagement initiatives. So what initiatives would you promote to help students in this difficult COVID-19 pandemic period? I will now ask Shivam to answer this question. Shivam, you have 4 minutes from now.
Yeah, sure. So as we all know, due to COVID-19, that has been a very hard time for all of us, and fight is still on. Student life has been impacted badly due to the scenario. So the agendas I would be focusing right now that are right now in my mind as like as the federal government is charging huge money, nearly 2,000 CAD for a quarantine of just 2 to 3 days for international graduate students. So I'll be taking up this to the federal bodies and uh, making up conversations high on this and taking up this very seriously to the that this can be sorted out and the students' life become more smoother. Secondly, getting the professional experience is a major part of graduate studies as due to the COVID-19 situation, students are suffering from less opportunities. In the light of that, building the conversation with the industries for bringing up more opportunities for graduate students, that will be the major agenda because graduate students' major focus to make the career, build the career nicely after they get completed with the graduations, and getting in touch with the federal government and local bodies to resume the bus service and transit pass services and also other services which has been stopped due to the COVID-19 situation as because students are suffering a lot. Still, currently, I'm in contact with many students, those who are suffering from small issues, and I'm trying to sort it out with any of the help possible. And getting in media with the headlines for the updates of graduate students' life and their problems. Apart from that, due to the COVID, there were post-secondary fundings that was the issue or fundings that students get to for the their continuing their research or their education. So that is one of the major issues, and we're taking up the fundings from the external bodies and maintaining good relations with media as well as the federal bodies. That is all my point. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Shivam. I will now ask Maud to answer the same question. Maud, you have 4 minutes from now.
We're going through a tough time, and more needs to be done to ensure our grad community feels safe and secure. I believe more funding for student caregivers and flexibility around program extension is of utmost importance. We also need to make sure that the unique challenges female student caregivers face is properly addressed. I would like to take the initiative to improve our outreach and increase our presence on social media, as it can be an effective tool in our external advocacy during the pandemic. I would also focus on reminding the provincial government on increasing and extending the Tri-Council funding for Canadian and eligible students as it is highly necessary as we navigate through this pandemic. This pandemic has cost many of us financially. Some of us had their hours cut, while others lost their jobs altogether. In such circumstances, it is totally unacceptable for the province to make budget cuts on post-secondary education, which is directly affecting our grad students. I would take the initiative to work together with the university authorities in pushing the provincial government in stopping further budget cuts and put an end to the soaring increase in graduate tuition. I would focus on improving the campus food bank and graduate student assistance program to ensure remote support is available for all the graduate students. I would work in collaboration with other GSA, like other graduate student associations across the country, to obtain more financial support for our graduate students. If elected as your Vice President External, I want to emphasize on developing the digital infrastructure of the university to make remote learning more convenient for students. I want to work towards creating more GSA bursaries for grad students and look for ways for betterment for the indigenous students and ensure affordable, clean housing for our grad students once they start coming back to residence as the pandemic passes by. I would also like to work on enhancing the professional development programs organized by the university to help the grad students acquire much needed skills for the job market. I would collaborate with the industry leaders in bringing in more internship opportunities for our grad students so that they can cope up with the financial crisis we're going through right now. Most importantly, I believe mental health is an integral part of the university experience. In 2019, the government extended the mental health program for 1 year, but it is now needed more than ever. So I would like to work on the extension of this program as funding for mental health is vital during this pandemic. Alongside it, I would emphasize on hosting online events which can bring the students together and create a sense of community. They cannot go to the campus and enjoy campus life anymore. So we need to bring the campus to them. And I believe there are many ways to do that. We can arrange virtual tea parties, gaming events, and other extracurricular activities online. But only by working together, we can overcome all these obstacles. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud. Our third question is, what will be your top priorities regarding international graduate students during your term if you were elected? I will now ask Shivam to answer this question. Shivam, you have 4 minutes from now.
Thank you, Alongo. As I just right now mentioned that I come from India, and as I'm international students, I understand all and each and every small problems that international students suffer from. And as we know, the international graduate students majorly make 60 to 70% of a UFA graduate students association, and they are studying there. So, seeing this COVID-19 situation, if I'll be elected, there are certain points that I want to focus, and that might increase as we go on forward if I get the position. So, first of all, like that, to smoothen the travel services for the student and for the getting the same in touch with the building conversation with external bodies, because right now international students are suffering a lot due to travel issues that they cannot currently directly travel to Edmonton. They have to travel to either Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, and one more port that is available. Apart from that, due to this COVID-19, quarantine facility charges are very high. As I just mentioned, as an international graduate, it is going up to 2,000 CAD for 3 days, and then they can do the quarantine in coming 11 days in one of the facilities, either that is off campus or in the university campus. That's up to them. So that is also costing very high, which is going up to 970 CAD or so. As an international student, that's very high. Apart from that, coordinating with external bodies, making the conversation healthy to get the best opportunities for student experiences. Because right now, if the international graduate students come, they have more of the pressure to cope up with their professional experiences, and that has to build, as I am also the international student and I understand that very nicely. More of that, as I just mentioned that health as well. So just as we can see, for arranging some psychological fitness programs for the international students online, because when they come up in such a hard situation, focusing on the COVID, we have to take care of their mental health also, and make their lives more smoother at the campus. Apart from that, one of the major issues that international students are suffering from, and I've taken concern of, is like online classes platform has some of the issues. Like online platform class has some issues like sometimes the classes doesn't get recorded, or some missing of the assignments, some missing of that lectures. So that has to be auto taken up, even if it is supported by the university or either external bodies working on that. So yeah, that's all from my side, even though I'll be adding to this when I'll be coming to the position.
Thank you, Shivam. I will now ask Maud to answer the same question. Maud, you have 4 minutes from now.
Thank you. International graduate students make up 42% of all graduate students at U of A. They play a crucial role in not only the advancement of the university, but also in the economic development of the province. Being an international student myself, I completely understand the unique challenges that international graduate students face in pursuing their studies abroad. I believe that the academic work hours that the international students put in during their study period should be considered as actual work experience, and it should be given the value it deserves. In that regard, if elected, I would work with the university in pushing the provincial government to introduce a new immigration stream under the federal skilled worker category, where international students should be able to count their work hours as research or teaching assistants towards point to work experience under the National Occupation Code of 4012. Internationalization is a key variable in Alberta 2030, and there is a strong correlation between the enrollment of international students and immigration. If elected, I would vouch for these hardworking, highly skilled people to have a smoother future ahead in this country. Many of the international students are attending classes online from their respective countries, and it is putting a lot of burden on their shoulders to keep track of time and aligning with the time of Edmonton. It is a hectic task, and to keep things fair, they should be given proper support from the faculties and their respective departments to maintain academic excellence. I plan on working toward a better digital infrastructure so that they can attain a better educational experience while working remotely. I know quite a few international graduates at U of A who went to visit their countries after graduation and are stuck there, even after obtaining a PGWP. They cannot come back as they do not have a job offer yet. We need to keep it in mind that they are highly educated people for whom it can be challenging to ensure a job from far away. If elected, I plan on tackling these issues by taking these matters to the appropriate authorities so that this kind of circumstances do not occur in the future and international students can have a smooth transition from study life to work life. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud. Our fourth question is, how do you think the GSA and the ISA could collaborate to ensure an overall better experience for international graduate students at the University of Alberta? I will now ask Shivam to answer this question. Shivam, you have 4 minutes from now.
Okay, thank you, Alangu. So currently, as I am ISA graduate counselor for engineering, I understand many of the issues that has to be built togetherly with the GSA. And as it is quoted that unity as a strength, this collaboration will surely make wonders, as both the associations have finest of the members with them, which are belong to the grads and undergrads, which are capable enough to take initiatives, understand the real problems, and bringing up to the boards and making them solved out. Because as we know, graduate students association has a look into the graduate students, and ISA look for all the international students, but when they mix up together, we can more focus on international and indigenous students together. Apart from that, this collaboration will be a good platform for the discussion, considering all the undergrads, grads, indigenous, international, and taking the decision accordingly that no one gets left. Because as we know, sometimes some of the concerns that are raised, because sometimes some concerns are raised as to solve the international student problem, but that don't solve the problem for the GSA students or those who belong to the Canadian country itself. So this collaboration, making the decisions togetherly, finding out the problems and sorting them out with the proper objective set, this can be the best solution to them. So I really look forward for this association, like collaboration with the GSA and ISA and making the wonders. Thanks.
Thank you, Shivam. I will now ask Maud to answer the same question. Maud, you have 4 minutes from now.
Thank you. I believe GSA needs to discuss ways to maintain ISA sustainability to ensure that GSA advocacy for international students is not duplicated with what the ISA is doing. Now, while the ISA can take surveys among international students to learn about their concerns, GSA can collaborate with ISA to know what they're doing and take necessary steps as the steps I mentioned previously. There should be frequent meetings between GSA Council and ISA Council to learn more about the needs and demands of international students. Regular meeting with international student centers would make it possible for them to convey the latest messages and opportunities to international students. Being a GSA executive member, I can invite representatives from ISA at GSA meetings to present their advocacy for the betterment of the international graduate community. In this regard, the ISA and GSA can host combined events to raise awareness of such issues, while at the same time showing support to each other. Moreover, some of the internship and volunteering opportunities that GSA creates could be targeted towards international grad students, and a two-way communication between ISA and GSA would make things much smoother for the international students. Or maybe some of the financial supports of the GSA that the GSA is providing can be done keeping international students' best interests in mind. So to answer this question in one sentence, more clarity, better communication, and respect for each other's work can be key to ensuring an overall better experience for the international grad students at U of A. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud. So our fifth and last question is, do you have any question that you would like to ask to your opponent? I would start with Shivam. If so, you have 1 minute to ask your question.
Yeah, so I want to ask Mohammed that as he just mentioned, that he's studying from last 1 year in UFA. As an international student, what are problems he has faced in this hard times, and I want to, I want to take a note of that. So when I get a chance to become a VP external, I can solve that up.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
question.
Shivam. Maud, you now have 4 minutes to answer this question.
Thank you. Being an international student, I faced quite a lot of challenges, to be very honest. Mostly I missed home. I missed my family, my beloved ones. And those probably created some of the mental challenges, issues that were even more during this pandemic. So I had to rely on the community, the university community, to share my thoughts and how my life was going in general in order to cope up with those problems. Other than that, there were, of course, after coming here, there were issues with finding residence, opening bank accounts, and these are just the common problems that international students face, no matter from where they come from. Opening a bank account, finding a part-time job. That was one of the crucial problems, I would surely say. Since I'm from the Master of Engineering course-based program, I had to look for part-time jobs after I came here. So I had to reach out to people and build my network more in order to do that. And I believe that GSA can play a key role in this. We have a career center at our university, and I believe the GSA's responsibility is to notify about these services to the newcomer grad students at the university. Other than that, to be very honest, it has been a smooth ride so far. I look forward to the end of this pandemic, and I look forward to building my networking even more. Thank you.
Thank you, Maud. So Maud, do you have any question that you would like to ask to Shivam? If so, you have a minute to ask your question.
Thank you. As he mentioned that he is in the ISA Council, so being an existing member of the ISA Council, how do you plan on responding if there is a conflict of interest between GSA and ISA, while considering the fact that you have limited time to contribute to alongside your studies?
Thank
Okay,
you.
so
Shivam, you now have
okay.
4 minutes to answer your question, the mod's question.
Okay, so I just want to mention to Mohammed that I've just become the graduate counselor like last week, and so now I've not been into the uh, general meetings also, but the what you asked, like interest of conflict for that, like what we can do is likely when there is a problem statement coming for a particular student, that is even if it's international or a graduate student of any country, or if it's he or she is from Canada, we can build up the network and we can make up the meetings togetherly that what has to be done with a particular issue. And going randomly is not a solution. We should always reach out to the particular person who is belonging from the particular association. Like I am from engineering department, whatever the issues I have from my side, from my international student that I'll be taking up, and same student, same person from the graduate student association can come up and we can have a proper meeting. Having said that, we have to always take the interest of, like, student doesn't suffer a lot, and if he is suffering, if he or she is suffering in the start, we have to take care of that, right? So just not going randomly, we should always take care of the association particular person who is responsible for that. And yeah, that we can take up, and more I'll be keeping you updated when I get into that. Thanks.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you, Shivan and Maud. These were all the questions we had for you. Now let's move to candidates contesting for the GSA VP Labor position. We have one candidate for this position, Jessica. I will now ask Jessica to begin with her opening statement for the position of GSA VP President, Vice President Labor. Jessica, you have 2 minutes from now.
Okay. So thank you, Vanessa. First, I would like to thank the ISA for inviting me to present at this forum. My name is Jessica Grenke, and I am a third-year PhD candidate, currently studying how ranching systems impact plant community ecology. So as a longstanding member of the University of Alberta community, I did my undergraduate degree here. I began my master's degree here and then switched to a PhD degree. And I have volunteered the whole way. I have continually witnessed graduate student concerns being dismissed, belittled, and ignored by upper-level administration. There are definitely many great partners that I've worked with, and I'm grateful that I've worked with. But overall, I've witnessed graduate students being treated as exploitable resources when in fact we are colleagues. This attitude has been on blatant display, especially this last year, as we've all seen during the provincial budget cuts, the dramatic once-in-a-lifetime academic restructuring of our campus, and the global pandemic, during which the university has failed graduate students on many levels. So I'm wondering, because my experience advocating for student rights has instilled in me a respect for the power and potential the office of VP Labor holds. As head of the union, while also corresponding closely with the rest of the GSA executive staff, there is potential to both hold administration accountable and work closely with them as partners, which I've come to find is the most effective strategy for advocating for student rights. So I practice dialogue-driven leadership, I prioritize equity, and I tend to challenge the status quo. These qualities would enable me to effectively advocate for graduate students in the coming year.
Thank you, Jessica. Now let's move to questions. Our first question is, what motivated you to run for the GSA VP Labor position? Why would you like to be involved in graduate students' governance? You have 4 minutes from now to answer the question.
Thank you, Vanessa. So I was motivated to run by those pressing concerns that I listed. I have found the disconnect between what graduate students need and what the administration has been providing has been especially quite a large gap. in this last year. And as I've said, my experience like working within student groups, as well as in administrative and faculty committees, and as well as other upper level groups, I believe gives me a quite diverse experience in the different code switching and the different protocols needed to get things done and to get us as graduate students the rights that we haven't been provided with in this last year. So I feel that I'm at a place in my degree and in my life where I have the skills that we need as graduate students to help remedy some of the problems of this last year.
Thank you, Jessica. Our second question is, academically employed graduate students usually have difficulties understanding their rights under the Graduate Student Assistantship Collective Agreement and the way external fundings might affect their stipends. So what are you planning on doing about that? You have 4 minutes from now to answer this question.
Yeah, that is another great question. So when I first started my graduate career, I immediately ran into several problems with my specific contract and like my specific work. And I found the contracts and the collective agreement to be quite impenetrable at first and difficult to access. The resources are hard to find. So I'm very sympathetic to the problems that arise because of the wording and the accessibility of these documents. So delving more into it, the GSA union actually has a wealth of information available for graduate students. And I found the disconnect is mostly in accessing those resources. Not that they don't exist, it's just finding them can be quite difficult. So I have a three-pronged approach to help remedy this gap. First of all, I sit on the Labor Relations Committee, and we are currently working on an initiative to implement labor stewards throughout the university. So these would be, the way I envision them would be as ambassadors of the union directly to student groups and individual students throughout the university. So instead of graduate students having to come to the union for information, we would come to you with that information. And I'm very excited about this initiative. I think it'll increase communication quite a lot. I also am bottom up in terms of my leadership strategy. And in addition to the stewards, I would implement a continual survey and feedback pool so that if you were looking for resources and you were having problems finding the resources, we collect exactly why you were having problems in that situation and then builds upon that feedback to fix it. So basically customer service feedback continually to improve accessibility of these resources. And like more specifically within my graduate stewards idea, we would assign them in an equitable manner. So what I have seen as a problem in volunteering throughout the graduate student community, it is the most privileged groups that have the time and the resources to volunteer, right? And to seek out those resources that can be hard to find. And I would expect stewards to be distributed in a way that specifically addresses those inequities. So it goes to the groups that might not have the time, might not have the experience with administration to find those resources.
Thank you, Jessica. Our third question is, if elected, do you intend to negotiate a better pay scale for academically employed graduate students? You have 4 minutes from now to answer the question, Jessica.
Thank you, Vanessa. So the pay scale of graduate students is, I believe, laughably low and should be much higher. Considering the amount of resources and prestige, and I think of graduate students as the gears that make the university run. And the fact that many of us are underneath a minimum wage is incredibly egregious. Unfortunately, our bargaining period is going to be coming to an end within the next coming months. So if I were so fortunate as to be elected, the opportunity to bargain for an increased wage would not be on the table the renegotiating date would likely be April 2022. So if I were to be elected, that would not necessarily be a realistic goal for me. However, I feel very passionately about the fact that we do need to be paid according to our worth. And with that in mind, I would engage in initiatives to invest in strengthening our leverage once collective bargaining is on the table again. So the primary tool that I'm interested in right now to achieve that is our labor fund, which we have not had before. And I mean, the crudest way to apply it would be as a strike fund, but there's many other ways that we could apply it. Right now, just the fact that we're working on it, it sends a signal to the administration that we are serious about advocating for our rights. And yeah, if I were elected, I would work on deepening that fund and making sure that it speaks for what graduate students actually want as much as possible.
Thank you, Jessica. Our fifth and last question for you is, how do you think the GSA and the ISA could collaborate to ensure an overall better experience for international graduate students at the University of Alberta? You have 4 minutes, Jessica.
Thank you, Vanessa. So as I've stated, I'm a bottom-up leader. I cannot do my job if I do not hear from other groups and continually taking input and applying that input as best I can. Like, I see myself as a servant of the graduate student population, absolutely. And groups like the ISA are hugely powerful and like just such a great thing in terms of advocating for students. So if I were to be elected, I would hope to work as closely with the ISA as they had time for. So I've alluded earlier to like banks of feedback and continual feedback being collected from various student groups and individual students. And if I were elected, I would expect the ISA to contribute to that. And I would also expect as many meetings and consultations on initiatives as possible. So ongoing conversation between our groups, because ultimately, if I were elected, I would be speaking for 40% of the people I would be representing would be international students. And this group is a great way to take your pulse.
Okay, so these were all the questions we had for you. Thanks a lot, Jessica. So now let's move to candidates contesting for the GSA VP Student Services position. So only one of the two contested candidates for this position is present with us today, Paresh. So now I will ask Paresh to begin with his opening statement for the position of GSA Vice President Student Services. Paresh, you have 2 minutes from now for your opening statement.
Hi everyone, and thanks ISA for inviting me here. I'm Paresh Kumar and I'm studying in first year's master's, and I'm running for VP Student Services. So I think there's nothing more better than serving the students, your peers, because being a student, I also know what are the problems I'm facing, and I can also connect with others, and we together can like solve these problems. The major part, like I want to focus on, is providing more information to students. Like, I have seen students struggling on the information. Just an example, students are not completely aware about what is GSA insurance, what is Alberta healthcare insurance plan. They are not aware about what is supplementary and like what is primary. So these kind of information I want to like make it clear so that they can take that decision, what they want, what they don't want. Yeah, and that's what I want to focus on, and I'm providing more services to the students. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Paresh. So now let's move to questions. Our first question is, what motivated you to run for the GSA VP Student Services position? Why would you like to be involved in graduate students' governance at the University of Alberta? You have 4 minutes to answer the question, Paresh.
Yes, so like I throughout my life, being like during my college, also undergrad, also I was the class representative, and I know how to put forward the things discussed among the students, and I'm also a part of grad counselor at ISA. So I think GSA is a great platform for me to connect the both, to connect a bridge between them, and like take forward the issues we have facing, and we can like solve it with the GSA. So that is the thing which motivated me. I want to be into student governance. I have throughout my life I'm doing these things, so I know I have the experience. That's why I want to run for the position and help my peers. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Paresh. Our second question is, what are the greatest challenges that you faced or are still facing during this COVID-19 pandemic? And how do you think other students might relate to it? You have 4 minutes, Paresh.
So the COVID pandemic has created a very, like, this is going a very difficult scenario for all of us. We are going into online classes. This is the great challenge. Being in India, we have time also, like time difference is much. And also the other main thing is communication between the peers. We are not able to communicate. We are not sitting like aside. We are very far away. Although we are connecting through the video calls and the telephones, but yeah, that's creating a huge difference between us and for projects also. So like when we are far away from each other, when the students are like they are also facing many mental issues. So for that, I think we need to make the students aware about what the services are there. Like they can drop into mental health drop-in sessions. They can also come to unite the one-to-one conversation. These things can really help students build a communication and also help them when they have anything like they are not feeling good. Yeah.
Thank you, Paresh. Our third question is, many students are suffering from high anxiety and depression due to the isolation and other COVID-19 restrictions. So what is your take on it, and what services or activities would you promote to help students in this difficult period? You have 4 minutes, Paresh.
I think I can answer that question really better because I'm also in quarantine currently. So, so that is very difficult for students to be in quarantine for 14 days and you are not able to go outside. You are away from your family. These are major issues. So one thing is you have to like build communication. You have to communicate with your family on the phone. Other thing is university is also providing us some services. So we have like mental health drop-in sessions, community social work team is also there, Unity, and also GSA provides counseling and clinical services to students. So these are the things students need to be aware about, and yeah, then they can be safe, and that's how we need to like make them aware about these things.
Thank you, Paresh. So our fifth and last question for you is, how do you think the GSA and the ISA could collaborate to ensure an overall better experience for international graduate students at the University of Alberta? You have 4 minutes, Paresh.
Yeah, I think these two organizations, although like these are two different organizations, but yeah, our motive is to help the students and to provide them better services. So it would be really good if we are running smoothly and we are working together. In the past also, like we have seen whenever we have worked together, and that's a great outcome. We have like the UPass also. If we go into the past, we can think about that. So also when we are together, we as a team can think like focus on different areas. Like if GSA is focusing on something, they are working on something, and ISA is also working on something. But the thing is also coming under the GSA's motto, so that's perfect. Then GSA can focus on that, and ISA can work on something different. So in that way, we can provide the students with more services. And yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Paresh. These were all the questions we had for you. Thank you so much. So now we're gonna end this meeting with candidates contesting for the GSA president position. We have one candidate for this position, Anas. So now I will ask Anas to begin his opening statement for the position of GSA president. Anas, you have 2 minutes from now.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thanks Vanessa and Shanpreet and also the ISA for organizing this event. I do believe this is a very important platform for us to share our ideas and also our relationship and how we can actually work together with ISA moving forward, and simultaneously also share some of our ideas as part of our campaign. So thank you for this opportunity. As you know, I am the current Vice President External with the University of Alberta GSA. I have had the honor to serve graduate students as the main responsible for external advocacy and also residences. And I believe this is something very important to build on in order to serve this body of intelligentsia in an advanced role. And also importantly, I have planted some seeds for in my role, and also working with my colleagues, the VPs and also the president. And I think this is a crucial thing to kind of hold this institutional memory and then build on the platform with much nuances and also important ideas about my strategic work plan. I do believe that throughout the year serving the GSA or the graduate student as the VP external has taught me some has like grabbed my attention to some gaps where I can actually fill in. And I think one of the important issues I will focus on is the graduate supervision piece, the external advocacy piece to the government, and also student services. So I think this is having the opportunity to serve as an executive gives me the opportunity to really do something with much more expertise and be able to kind of have a transformative GSA. And I'm looking forward to this role.
Thank you, Anas. Now let's move to questions. Our first question is, what motivated you to run for the GSA president position, and why would you like to be involved in graduate students' governance? You have 4 minutes to answer this question, Anas.
Thanks, Vanessa. So as an international student myself, I do remember when I came to Alberta, and I also remember the challenges I faced. I have been enamored by the student governance on campus. I got involved with the GSA through my department as an executive of my political science graduate student, my department graduate student association. And I was really impressed by some of the work that the previous team has done. And I said, why not step in and doing something similar or maybe better? So that was the impetus. But also importantly, I have had a lifetime interest in leadership. Like coming from Morocco, I established and lead l'Organisation Marocaine des Jeunes Décideurs, so the Moroccan organization of decision makers. I have been involved in the civil society engagement with the government. I'm also providing some scholarships for Moroccans to study abroad, especially in France. And after that, subsequently, I went to the UK and I got involved as well with Bradford Student Union because they don't have the GSA there. Although I was doing a master's, I was part of the Student Union. So I was also part of the Student Union, and that actually taught me some leadership skills and some of the brought to my attention some challenges that international students face. And I thought this is something I could leverage somewhere else. So when I came to Canada, I felt like this is the high time for me to run. So I ran for the VP external. And then after finishing that year, I felt like, although the year hasn't finished yet, I felt like there are things that there is more work that needs to be done. And I can only do that by staying in the executive team. And of course, as someone who has been the VP, I thought it's much better to have to be in an advanced role and be the GSA president. Yeah, so I think this is the motivation is primarily driven by a passionate interest for advocacy, student governance, and also primarily driven by the success that I have achieved this year, which I'm going to talk about it in a bit, like what I have done as a VP external.
Thank you, Anas. Our second question is, with the new travel and quarantine restrictions the government of Canada has released on February 12, graduate students from around the world might have a very hard time affording the cost of moving to Canada. How do you think the GSA could help in this situation? You have 4 minutes from now to answer this question, Anas.
Yeah, thanks, Vanessa. I think this is a very important and crucial thing in our strategic work plan. So the GSA can work and will continue addressing this by, first of all, working closely with ancillary services in the isolation programs. So now or later, if elected as the president, like my VP external will continue to be working with the Associate Vice President, Catherine Hosen, and also the Vice President ancillary in that isolation programs. So I will make sure that while isolation programs is already 13 days, and then because of this, the expenses of the program that the federal government introduced, like asking the ancillary to reduce the cost of the isolation programs, and also importantly, reducing the length. So while, for example, when people like stay 3 days in Canada in the airport where they landed, and then they have the test and the test is negative, and then they get actually, and then when they move to Edmonton, for example, that 3 days should be counted towards the isolation program. So instead of having it as 15 days or 30 days, it has to be 10 or 11 days. So this is something I have already asked for, and I will continue to ask for. And then being a president gives me much more power, not power, but discretion to say this is something that the students ask for. Another important, this is number one. Number two is to ask for more funding for the international students that are coming there. So obviously it's too expensive. And I believe there has to be some sort of contribution to that cost because international students pay international fees. And I think it's legitimate to do that. And I have been already in consultation with the university leadership in ancillary services, and they have been open to the discussion, and they have already agreed to kind of look into reducing the cost of the isolation programs first and foremost. And of course, as you received an email today, there has been some sort of financial aid for international students coming to Canada, and then if they prove that they are in need.
Thank you, Anas. Our third question is, what actions are you going to take for graduate students still overseas and facing issues with online classes? You have 4 minutes to answer the question, Anas.
Thanks, Vanessa. I think this is something that we already discussed. I already discussed with Shampreet, and we had various meetings with Shampreet this year and also you, Vanessa. So I think we discussed one thing that we have been asking the university, and we continue to ask the university, is to pay attention to the time difference between Canada and also other countries overseas. And moving to asynchronous learning, making sure that the lectures are recorded and online, and then so students can have access instead of having a student waking up at 3 or 2 a.m. to attend a class. And also, I think this is the main important, how we are going to address international, the time difference between Canada and other countries, and also having some sort of flexibility around attendance. So a lot of lectures are really heavy, and this is something that I asked not only the university, but because I'm the VP external, I asked the government in our student leaders meeting. I asked the Minister of Advanced Education. That was a question I asked only 1 month ago. Hey, there is a huge load of lectures. Can we have those lectures minimized into having something manageable? Because somebody attending a lecture at 2 or 3 a.m., they just switch off. So something that we asked for already, and then we will continue to ask for in my term and I will continue asking for it in my term if elected as president.
Thank you, Anas. Our fourth question is, What will be your top priorities regarding international graduate students during your term if you were elected?
Thanks, Vanessa. So my top priority is both for international students and Canadian students, because it also benefits international students. So I'm going to mention it, is that piece of student supervisory relationship. So something that the GSA has already been working on, like my president has already been working with the dean of the GSR to ask for a survey, and then for a survey to evaluate supervision, like a survey circulated to all university professors or to all students, anonymously asking students to evaluate the supervision, which hasn't happened yet. So this is something that we've been asking for. So I will definitely continue to ask for it, and I will continue to push for that survey. And this is on one hand. On the other hand, and because we are speaking of international students, I leverage that alumni council, that relationship between alumni council and GSA. Thankfully, this year we have built that political capital between the GSA and the alumni council, and that committee of graduate to student to graduate transition committee. So we have already asked for having more internships, because most people in the alumni are already working in companies, they are running businesses, and they always have internships. So instead of relying exclusively on the FGSR internship programs or the government might tax, we can also ask the alumni council to say, connect us to those people that you know, so we can have more internships for international students. So that we'll do. So in that committee, the VP, I sit in there. Sometimes also like we switch the VP student services and the VP labor. So if elected, I would, depending on our capacity, like if I don't have capacity, one of the VPs can always sit there. So we'll continue that piece. Importantly, or crucially, is the federal advocacy. Something that I paid attention to this year is all external advocacy to the government has been through the ABGPAC, the Alberta Graduate Prevention Advocacy Council, in which I serve as the vice chair of the outreach committee. We reached the government, we met the minister, and that advocacy front has always been dominated by, as it is the case in Alberta, by Canadian students. So most of the time, questions that get asked to the minister does not involve, for example, immigration. It's only me who asks for immigration, extension of work permits for international students. So what I'm thinking this year, based on my experience, to shift the orientation of the GSA external advocacy, and this is something I will discuss with my VP external, to shift the orientation from the FGPAC while keeping that GSA membership with the FGPAC, because it's a very important provincial lobbying group, to the federal, the government advocacy. So through that, I contributed this year to the formation of U15. So U15 is a federal lobbying group that contains major research universities in Canada that are 15 universities, like Alberta, British Columbia, McGill, Queens. So we are already working with them. We have already sent a letter to the government about the international immigration stream 4012, and then making sure academic work experience is work experience, and it has to be counted towards the point score in express entry. And then we will continue doing that, and the group will likely evolve to be an association like the ABGPAC, or a provincial group that will need an executive director, or need, for example, or need some financial resources. If that has to be the case, I might also, through the discussion with the staff and also the team, allocate some resources for that, because that's very important for me. So I think these are the three crucial pieces that I'm thinking to do for international students, because they are our members. And I am an international, not because that I am an international student, I'm doing that, but I believe 42 of graduate students in the University of Alberta are international students. And of course, it's also a contribution to the Canadian economy, to the Albertan economy, as a kind of post-pandemic economic recovery, because the talent retention is key everywhere. And because of what is happening now with the provincial government, a lot of people are leaving the province. There is a brain drain. So we always tie that to the interests of Alberta and Canada, instead of having it be in the interest of international students themselves. So it's a win-win situation.
Thank you, Anas. So our fifth and last question for you is, how do you think the GSA and the ISA could collaborate to ensure an overall better experience for international graduate students at the University of Alberta? You have 4 minutes to answer the question, Anas.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I'm smiling because we have worked a lot together this year. Vanessa, I've been with you in some meetings. Shanpreet has always been in touch with me through social media. I do believe we have contributed to some knowledge to the structure and the governance of ISA, myself and Mark. I mean, we've always been available. I have been omnipresent in your council, like in the graduate council at least. I've been there. So we will definitely continue doing that. Again, waiting for the capacity and also consultation with the staff and also the team, my team. The VP external will likely continue to be part of the council. It's not a promise, but this is something that I'm thinking of, or depending on capacity, or even myself. If so, one of the executives will be in the council, and because we believe that's very important for information sharing between both groups. Another thing is because of the discretion that the GSA has in terms of that provincial lobbying groups with meeting with the ministry. If it's very important that the ISA will add some nuances to our meeting with the government, we can always add that, provided that there is no duplication. I attended a meeting with both of you and Shanpreet, and also another councillor from the ISA with the Minister of Office. And I did believe that was very important because having both groups there avoids duplication and also avoids consultancy trap. So we already have a provincial lobbying group, the ABGPAC, that contains 4 GSAs, the Concordia, Calgary, UV, and Athabasca. We are putting resources in there. There is staff training, there is VPs training, we have our advocacy week, we have, there is a lot of work put in there, and we've been consistently meeting with the ministry, and then to have a student group coming from campus, meeting the ministry, and then saying something else other than what we say. So that's not, that inconsistency of message damages our reputation and also makes the government say, okay, we have already consulted with students, and then therefore they are happy with this. So we have made this very clear to the ISA. As long as they abide by this, we can always work together, and then we can always ensure there is a consistency of messages in terms of to the government. I also think that the ISA and the GSA can work. I'm not sure, I still have to do some research about the committees where the ISA sits, but I believe the ISA does not sit in the Board of Governance. But I believe the ISA sits in COSA, in residences, so the VP academic sits in there. So my VP academic will be there. So there's always a information flow through the VPs. And I'll always be available, as I always said, for any consultation with respect to the sustainability of ISA. So something that is very important about student groups, which I say to everyone, is the reputation, number one, and the sustainability. So in as much as you are motivated to achieve certain things, how long will you be sustainable in the long run? And that sustainability is key because there are many players in the university in among student groups, and some are already established by the Post-Secondary Learning Act, others are not. So you can only thrive through a very robust consultation and a diplomatic discussion with those who are around you who might have some say. So I'm always making this very clear. And I think if we continue being mindful of that, things are going to go fine. Another thing that I want to mention is I'm very impressed by the ISA structure. I said this many times, Vanessa, like the way that it's too challenging to have an international student group that represents both graduate students and undergraduate students, and having the board mainly dominated by undergraduate students, and then the graduate students report to the board because the board matters in any association. And then still you creatively brought that graduate affairs office, and then having graduate students having that say, and that almost equal representation in the board between graduate and undergraduate students. This is something quite impressive. I'm very impressed, but we are really happy to continue to really offer advice if we can, consultation, talk about this and how we can ensure an efficient representation of graduate students. Something that is also important, and I'm gonna close with this in this question, is international students. I mean, look at the GSA executives over the last 10 years. Most of them have been international students. International students are our members before they are members of the ISA. I consider all international students in ISA. I consider ISA as like a campus student group that is our member. So thank you.
Thank you, Anas. These were all the questions we had for you. Thanks a lot. So our forum has come to an end. So again, unfortunately, we had nobody here contesting for the VP academic positions. None of the candidates were present with us today. So our forum has come to an end. On behalf of the ISA, I would like to thank you all for taking the time to join us today for this forum and respond to questions that our fellow graduate students wanted to ask you. Thank you to all the graduate students who took the time to submit these questions. And thank you to our observers and to everyone else watching us today. Please do not forget to vote on February 23rd. To our candidates present here, we wish you all the best for the remainder of this campaigning period. Have a good rest of the day and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.